Because this is a long document.
Yep.
Thousands of words. You must encounter quite large documents.
Oh, this is a baby doc.
Oh, this is small?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, well. So then where would you start?
So what you just did is you generated a template.
Dang it.
That's okay.
Option drag creates a duplicate?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Ridiculous. These little tips and tricks
Saves you so much time. How exciting I have things to teach you, Tiago.
So much.
So
I'm
exciting.
realizing just how much I don't know. I'm here with a long awaited guest. It's Marie Poulin.
Hello.
A celebrity, an expert in the Notion world. Notion is becoming kind of this ever-rising star in the world of not just knowledge management, but just productivity apps. I have questions about Notion. I use it. I've actually used it for years, but I don't feel like I've really discovered how to use it to its full potential.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You know, building a second brain was definitely a big influence when I was first trying to make sense of my Notion workspace. And so it really helped me implement some structure in my own space. And so I've been, greatly influenced by your work. So I'm excited to see how I can hopefully contribute back.
Here we have the real life. This is not a demo. This is not a, fake model. This is the literal document that I have open as I'm teaching my online course to hundreds of people at a time. So there's high stakes, a lot of pressure, I'm nervous, and it's basically a run of show. It's everything that has to happen, everything that I have to say, everything that my team, who is sort of behind the scenes enabling everything, needs to know. I'm constantly caught in this tension between having a single authoritative document, which makes me not want to change anything.
Yep.
And be like, this is like the canon, this is the source. It's like, the Bible. It doesn't change for all time. And then the other side of that coin, which is it's constantly changing.
Yeah.
Everyone has improvements. This needs to change. This should be shorter. That should be longer. I have ideas. But then the more changes we make, the less authoritative or reliable it seems.
I think a lot of people think of Notion as folders on their filing system, right? Where data only lives in one place.
Yes.
But we know part of the beauty of Notion is being able to access the same data in multiple places and in different ways, in different contexts. There are kind of different paradigms that it's hard to wrap your brain around what's possible if you don't really know what you don't know.
Love it.
So let's check out your parent page of that. You've got your live session speaker notes. Okay, great. So let's make a database on this page. And you can call it live session, speaker notes, something
Inline,
like
yeah.
that. Sure. We can transform it all later if we need to. So it's
I love when there's no risk to my choices.
yeah. I think that's another thing people miss is it's so easy to make changes in Notion, but if you don't know how, it can be kind of stressful. But all of this is seconds to transform. So let's call this live sessions or live session speaker notes. We can do a database with the same name. I would drag all of those pages into your database.
Oh, just like this?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you could make that box.
Yep. And make sure it's a solid blue line there. There you go. Great. Why don't we add a couple properties here that might be useful for you? I think probably date created. I would include created time for sure. We'll just add a few that are going to be
Created by last edited time.
You can always rename those if you want and whatnot, but those are sort of Notion's automated timestamps.
So when you say automated, if I understand, there's some properties that are sort of pre-provided that update like by themselves, or you can create manual, but then you have to fill them in.
Exactly. So you can't actually change these time properties.
That's good. That's a good thing.
You can decide to use tags or not. I don't know if you necessarily want to or need to. Maybe you're saying, hey, let's connect this to a version.
Yeah, this is actually the in a way the version cohort 15.
Ah, yeah.
Instead of cohort, I'm going to say V15. Oops.
Grab the little circle in the bottom right of that, and you can drag that down.
Yes.
And apply that.
Efficiency.
Awesome. And you can do things like, double click on. There you go, just to
Perfect.
condense it. And you might decide you don't need to see this all the time, right? I don't always need to see all the data all the time. So if you want a really clean view of these speaker notes, you might want to hide all of those and just have your list here. And then when you open the document, that's when you start to see a little bit more of that data. Maybe you don't need to see the created time, but the last edited time is a good one to have. So we can kind of go through and, let's always hide that. Any other properties that you think might be useful in the context now that you're seeing these in a database and thinking about how these change over time, resources that might need to be included or things like that, maybe even a URL if you're linking to
I think so.
a Keynote file or something like that.
That would be really useful.
Status, I think, would be a great one, especially as your documents get outdated or or whatnot. Person properties could be helpful if you want to say instructor, music
Yes.
person, and I would make sure to name those properties. So, Notion will name it person by default, and so you might go in and say instructor. And that may not be useful if it's always you that's the instructor, but if you are thinking about in the future, some of these sessions aren't always going to be led by you, it'd be good to be able to assign those.
Often I look at the Zoom recording of the last time I did it, and I could put it right there.
Like one thing that might make sense to do is build the beefier version of this document first, and then we can strip it out into just the speaker notes and have a separate database for that. So let's just open up one of these. All right, so status is not started. Is that true?
It's kind of like phases. There's planning, and then actual preparation, delivery, and then finished. I'd say 4.
Yeah, let's add a few of those. And then, so the Zoom recording, is the Zoom recording for this event or the last event?
The last event.
So that might be interesting to include in our template then for these live sessions is maybe the templates can always include a little embed area so that you can go and watch the past session.
Oh, so I don't even have to go somewhere else.
Exactly. I mean, that would be ideal is like, what is everything that you need to do when you're about to run one of these sessions? Could we have one place for you to look? I think this dashboard could become the place where if there's always resources that you're referencing, like let's start adding them lower on the page if we need to.
Could we start adding those as headings just so we don't
absolutely.
forget? So there could be like a start here almost. There could be like top resources. And then there could be like last cohort, everything from the previous cohort.
Absolutely. And I turn those into headings.
Headings. That.
Yep. And then we can make a little table of contents at the top, and that way we can kind of see what we're working
Oh, I
on.
don't know about table of contents. Is it like this?
TOC?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, perfect. And if we want to, we don't necessarily want to see all the speaker notes. We only want to see the current cohort, right? So we can say maybe only show me anything from V15, and that will
Great.
only ever show that. And then also if you add something in this view, it will inherit that tag. So that's another way to just always keep like a really tidy view. So what are some of the other things that you would need to pull in? You've got your resources cohorts, there's going to be links.
I would look at the live session agenda for last time. I would look at the recording, at what actually happened. And then finally, the feedback. What did people say? What did they like? What did they not like? What suggestions did they make?
Right, and you were saying you don't necessarily have a place that you're collecting some of that currently?
Not a single place. These are all repositories of information. Google Drive folder over here, a Panopto link, which is the video hosting platform we use. It's spread out basically.
I would make a URL, and then I would name that feedback or Google Drive or whatever it is that the place that you send that. And then of course there's an aspect of who owns this document too, right? So are you expected to update this? Is someone on your team going to go back and update the recording? And you can see how over time you're going to probably start to generate these SOPs where someone's job is to go back and make sure to update those links to keep those files up to date.
So like responsible person basically.
Yeah.
So would I do a person and then title like responsible?
Over time, depending on who's kind of helping you with this, you might want to make a page where anyone can go in and see only the things that they are responsible for. So they don't have to see all the data, but they can just see everything's already pre-filtered to that team member.
That.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we've got our live speaker notes. What are some of the resources and where are you currently keeping them?
Even Evernote notes. Those are probably the usual suspects.
Could we grab a couple example URLs of maybe resources that you typically would share, and then we'll put them in one of your docs? And we can...
Yeah, let's look in another one of these. Worksheet 6. This is an example.
We had to scroll through that document to find a worksheet for this session, but it would be great if you had, whether it's a file property or file attachment, so you could see here are all the 6 files that we reference when we are running this live session.
Yes.
I'd probably add that as it seems like a file property, and then you can name it worksheet, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Right, so there's one, and then if there's multiple, you should be able to attach all of those worksheets there. There's a AI summarization property that maybe we could see what would happen if we added this property. It can summarize your document. So if you've got a course that you're teaching,
I'm a fan of AI, and I'm a fan of, even bigger fan of summarization.
Exactly. AI summary. You can see it's a newish property. And so you can say fill with summary, auto update on page edits.
So every time I edit the page, it updates the summary?
Yes.
Wow.
Let's see what happens.
Cool.
Okay, that's interesting. So it's not like it's actually summarizing the content, but it's saying this is what this document is for, which is kind of interesting.
Especially in shared environments, so often you find a document and all you want to know is just what am I looking at? And it can take you minutes and minutes and minutes
Yes.
of just like puttering around and just poking at things before you finally realize, oh, that's what it is. This isn't relevant to me.
Yep. So I think we could put a database together of some of your most used resources, and we could even connect them to certain sessions, right? If you wanted to create a relation between those two and say in live session 1, these are like all the blog posts that we tend to reference. These are all the circle posts. So just do an inline database. And we'll do kind of what we did before. We can either drag these in, and you can, in the future, just replace those with actual. So let's change this to type. Okay, and we'll actually just include your list here, blog, circle, Twitter, that sort of thing. So you'll want to go through, and we'll just say resources. Now, I'm sure you've got a ton of resources,
So many.
that you can move to from other places in your account. And so that way, if you are going throughout your other Notion pages and such, and you're like, oh, those are great in-class resources, you can highlight them, move to, send them into this database, and then we can include this database as a linked database anywhere else you want to reference them. Then we can start to filter them as well to say, what if we only want to show resources from Express or from Distill or from different modules in your course? We could create a relation between these two if you think it makes sense to do that. And you can choose not to, so you can do one-way relations if you want, or two-way relations.
Oh. So I could filter the speaker notes by the resource?
Exactly.
It's really wild to wrap your head.
Well, you can see how it gets infinitely complex, right? And you're like, well, should I connect those pieces? Like, it starts to get kind of messy. And if you don't know what you're doing or how the data interacts, you can see why people get really tripped up with Notion, and it starts to get overwhelming. So it does require a lot of forethought of like, what am I trying to do? How do I interact with this data?
Almost like a mantra repeat. What am I trying to accomplish? What am I trying to accomplish? Like again and again and again.
And even just teaching your team, hey, if you've got resources that we've mentioned over and over again, drop them in the in-class resources. Let's get in the habit of having those quickly available.
How would I link those to?
Get a URL set up there. And so that's going to be the habit you're going to get into is like new blog post. And I'm just adding this here so you can select these in the future. But here you would probably want to put the actual like title of the blog post here, right?
Let's go.
Title of post. And while we're here, why don't we just set up that relation to your live session speaker notes. And we can do a two-way relation. If it's too much data, you don't feel like it's necessary. Sometimes adding more properties ends up being, now you're just doing data input and categorization, which is not always helpful, right? Sometimes it does help you, but you don't want to overdo it. So let's say we're attaching that to live session 1. Maybe you mention that in 3 different sessions, right? Maybe that one keeps coming up. And so you can say, I can see all the places that's been referenced.
So now Notion knows that there is a relationship between this resource, this blog post, and those specific live sessions.
Exactly. So if I click back on Express, you can see title of the post is there. And then I think we can start moving toward assembling a template for these. I actually think each of these is kind of a template, right? You have one, if these are the things that you run over and over again, there's always an Express template, there's always a Distill template. So I think what we could do is actually copy the content of these into a template here. So we'll make one for each of those different sections. Maybe I'll have you do that to get you in the habit of creating a new template.
Good.
And so let's call this one, Live Session Express. We know that we want everything from this as a starting point, right? So I think we can actually highlight everything in the body of this, copy it, and we're going to copy it into that template.
So open up, is this the one? Can I just do select all?
Yep, you should be able to do a quick.
And then copy, and then hide this. Where does the template go once it's been created?
The bottom right, or the arrow when you...
Right here?
Yes. So click on the So what you just did is you generated a template.
Dang it.
That's okay. But like this is it's such a common mistake. There's so many UI pieces, right? So
Oh, interesting. So clicking on it, it's thinking, oh, you want to, because
you want to create a new live session.
Oh, I did click new, so that's understandable.
So click on the 3 dots beside on the right, edit this template. So that's where you can always go back to edit your template.
Let's paste this in there.
So what we can do, it pasted the page, but you can go back and you can turn that into text. So click on the block on the left-hand side and let's say turn into text.
Oh, interesting.
So it's all there. Now you can see it sort of puts it inside of a block.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. So anywhere you see a link, you just turn it from a page into text, and it goes into that document, gets the text or whatever the content is, and replaces it.
Exactly.
Gosh, these little tips and tricks
Saves
are
you
just
so much time. Let's do the same thing with Distill. So let's make a new template for Distill, Organize, and Capture. How exciting I have things to teach you, Tiago.
so much.
So
I'm
exciting.
realizing just how much I don't know. And then how do I save the template? Just back.
Yep, once you've already created it, it's already saved. I think we should actually duplicate these documents and just move them into their respective pages. So I'm going to hold Option and drag these out to copy them.
Does that work with any element?
Yeah.
Option drag creates a duplicate?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Ridiculous. It's almost like you don't need copy and paste.
And so now, one by one, you can say move to and move those into the appropriate template that you named.
So move to, is one of these the original and one the template?
Yeah, so the database ones are the ones that have the lines in them.
So this is the template.
Yeah.
Okay, should I visit it?
Yeah, let's check it out and see what happened.
And then do turn into text.
And then I like to delete that first line.
Oh,
Hit
yeah.
the-
Okay.
We've got a bunch of templates. So what it seems like is this is going to be your ongoing, whenever there's new sessions, this is where your new session gets generated. You can change it up, you can make notes, but you've always got the starting point of those templates.
I really like, by the way, how you didn't come in and just throw away everything that I had and like impose all these strict rules. You basically looked for things I'm already doing and that are already working and just made them make more sense, be applied more consistently, and in some cases remove things that were just kind of unnecessary.
Absolutely. Like, I was checking in with you. How have you been doing this? Are you using your speaker notes? Are you reading the script? How does it work? Because there's no point in trying to build a system that is going to make you feel more flustered and confused as soon as you open up this document. So it's about just taking what you're doing and just turning it up to 11. And
Marie, I want to talk a few minutes about our dear listeners or watchers. If they saw something that they would like to apply to themselves, any idea, principle.
so our course is called Notion Mastery. We're trying to get people to be a little bit more capable of kind of self-diagnosing and understanding their own strengths, understanding what's working, what's not working, and to ask the right questions.
In fact, not only have I taken your course, our entire team has, and we constantly reference it. When we're having like discussions or arguments about how something should be in Notion, the ultimate invocation is, well, Marie in her course says this. And then it's like mic drop, and we're like, okay, just do it that way.
Well, my hope is that I'm saving people time with some of those best practices, but also getting people to think about, why do I want to do this? Is this the best way to do this for me and the way that I work with my team?
Marie, thank you so much for being here. It's been a real pleasure. I've genuinely learned so much today.
Thank you so much for having me.